Jamal Harrison Bryant is a charismatic preacher, high-profile social activist, and an author. He was born in Boston in 1971. He is a graduate of Morehouse College and of Duke University. In December 2018, Jamal Harrison Bryant transitioned from Empowerment Temple African Methodist Episcopal Church in Baltimore, Maryland, to Atlanta, Georgia, to pastor the New Bed Missionary Baptist Church in DeKalb County. Jamal Harrison Bryant embodies the rare balance of spiritual gifts and practical educational experiences that connects pastoral leadership and discipleship teaching with prophetic preaching and courageous social action. Jamal Harrison Bryant served as the National Youth and College Director on the NAACP for 6 years, leading about 70,000 young people worldwide on nonviolent campaigns. He is blessed with 3 beautiful daughters. He believes that the body of Christ should be empowered in every area of life.
Well, welcome to Inspire, Dr. Jamal Bryant.
It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you. I want to kind of delve a bit back into, your youth, as we say, your
Yes.
youthful days. I know both your parents were ministry.
Yes.
And you preached your first sermon at
Yes.
18.
Yes.
Now, what I always say to when I meet preachers, men, women of God, how were you so sure you had the calling? Because a lot of people think they've got the calling.
Yes.
And who are you to tell them they don't? But for you, how were you so sure? And at what age did you know that the life of ministry is for me?
I knew I was called from around the age of 12 and did everything I could to fight it. I was a typical preacher's kid.
PK?
Running in the wrong direction, trying to really embrace the spirit of Jonah, knowing where I'm supposed to be and going in the complete opposite direction. I was a freshman at Morehouse College, which is the school that Martin Luther King Jr. went to, and just surrendered in my dorm room. This is what I'm supposed to be doing and where it is that God's calling me for my life.
Was there any particular, you surrendered in your dorm room?
Yes.
Was there a catalyst at that particular time?
I don't know. It's my first time moving away from home, being away from family. I am really having to redefine what is my relationship with God, that it is not forced, it is not cultural, because that's the spirit of the house. But now I've got to make independent decisions that I'm going to get up on Sunday mornings, that I'm going to live for God. And so I knew I was going to preach, but I never saw myself as a pastor. I thought I was going to follow in the path of Reverend Jackson, Jesse Jackson, and Al Sharpton.
Civil rights.
Yes, in civil rights, but never in a local parish.
I said, going onto a continent at a very young age, Africa obviously is a place but tell us about Ghana. When was your first trip to Ghana, and what led you to Ghana the first time you came?
My first time in Ghana was in the middle of the coup in Liberia, that the soldiers had captured our former president, Samuel Kenyon Doe. So we got an alert for all Americans to come to the embassy, and they helicoptered all of us to Kumasi. So my first time to Ghana
this was in the 80s?
Oh yeah, this was 89. Wow. That should have been 89, I believe. So my first trip to Ghana was not a tourist trip. My second time to Ghana, I came as a representative of Bill Clinton with Reverend Jesse Jackson on Air Force Two when late former President Jerry Rawlings had the African-American Summit. And he did that with a pastor out of Philadelphia named Leon Sullivan, and began to do high-level conversations about how we need to do diaspora trade. and how it is that we need to do business. So when I came, Ghana looked a whole lot different than what it looks like
when you
today.
came to Kumasi on a helicopter.
Yes,
wow.
yes. And so the Lord, for some reason, at every critical moment of my life, keeps bringing me back to Ghana. And I am just grateful and feel as if this is my home away from home.
It's interesting you mentioned that when you were younger, you thought you would go into civil rights.
Yes.
You know, following the likes of Reverend Jesse Jackson,
Yes.
and you getting to work with him,
Yes.
coming to Ghana. So do you think, you know, I know you're very outspoken when it
Yes.
comes to, you know, general issues across, that you've been able to marry the two, your life of ministry and civil rights, and speaking out against injustice and everything else?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that's the model of ministry that I have. 92% of what Jesus did was outside of the church. The present day church, 92% of what we do is within those four walls. And I think our responsibility is not just to the sanctuary, but to the streets. And I try to model that in our ministry. In this pandemic, we have fed over 800,000 families in America who are dealing with food insecurity. We're sending scores of young people to college, who many of them are the very first in their family to have that opportunity and their privilege. We are incubating 100 businesses that otherwise would flounder and would not flourish. And so we're seeing how it is that prospering is not just what you do in the pew, but what you do in the marketplace. Our responsibility in the church is not just to ask for the tithe of that 10%, but to show people how you multiply that 90%. And I think that that's part of my responsibility in the earth.
In terms of Africa and, you know, American diaspora, you know, I know you were here for the year of return.
Yes.
How important is it that the Africa is able to connect to the diaspora?
The African Americans really have some work to do. You would not be an authentic Jew and not embrace Israel, Jerusalem. I think every African American has to touch the soil of Ghana to know where you have come from. You know, the Sankofa bird is flying forward while looking back. Yes.
Earrings,
Yes.
Sankofa, yep.
Absolutely, and I think that's part of our responsibility. And I'm just excited. While I've been here all week, every day in the hotel I'm meeting scores of African Americans who are coming back home, reuniting and realizing this is the DNA, this is the wellspring, this is where it all originated for us. And so it means a lot. And I don't want us to just come as tourists, but to come as partners, to come as developers, to come as colleagues, that we're not yielding all of the resources to people in China, that we're not giving up ourselves to just business people from Lebanon, but people from, I don't know, Tennessee, people from New Jersey who have access to the same capital can do business here in Ghana.
I like that. Okay, so there's more I want to delve into.
Yes.
Let's go for a quick break. This is Inspire, and I'm speaking with Dr. Jamal Bryant. There's more coming up. You don't want to miss this. Hello and welcome back to Inspire. I'm speaking with Dr. Jamal Bryant. And before the break, we touched upon a little bit about African and African American, you know, the diaspora coming back, connecting.
Yes.
I listened to your message that you preached yesterday while you were in Ghana.
Yes.
And you talked about obviously double portion, but if you don't like change, then
Yes.
there's a problem.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about that. The message of you know change and whether you should like it or not.
Yeah, I think Christian to be Christian is synonymous with transition. To say you have been converted means you were one thing and you became something else. To be born again means that you have not gone back into your mother's womb, but that you have come into the full awakening of who it is that you are. Christian is transition. He turned water into wine. It went through a transition that the water became wine with no fermentation, with no grapes, with no waiting process, with no sealing. And I think that is the transition that the world went through in COVID-19. That one day we were without mask, and the next day we were. We never in a million years thought that we wouldn't be able to go to church, that we wouldn't be able to travel, that schools would be closed. We didn't think in the 21st century that we would have to take vaccines, then take a booster shot. We didn't think that nakedly pharmaceutical companies and Eurocentric greed would double the price to Africa to enlarge the debt quotient. We had no idea that there would be an uprising, that we would see the American government with an attempted topple right before our eyes on global television. So the transition, the shifts are happening amongst us. Many years ago, the late Desmond Tutu said that in the early years, missionaries came to Africa. And he said in the latter years, African missionaries are going to have to come to America. And I think that that's the transition that we are seeing in, that the gospel is dominant here on the continent of Africa more than anywhere else.
Yes.
That's the only place where you're seeing outspurts of growth in Catholicism, is where there are melanated people, whether that's here in Africa or whether in South America. And so we are the hub and the epicenter of revival. Anybody who is connected to Christ goes through changes, through shifts of hearing what is your call, what is your assignment, what is your destiny. All of that can change based off of the hand of God, that what you are doing in this moment is not what you saw yourself doing 2 years ago. I never in a million years thought that I would be in this place. You'll remember it wasn't 30 years ago, not 30 years ago, the most pronounced and prominent evangelists to come to the continent of Africa were all white pastors.
That's true.
So
That's
for,
true initially, yep.
Yeah, so for black preachers now to come means that there's been a change, that there's been a shift, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
I want to, you famously took over one of the biggest churches in Atlanta.
Yes.
After Pastor Eddie Long's passing. Now, to fill such shoes and that's such a big church and transitioning from your former church in Baltimore.
Yes.
What was that like for you? Because I was like, you literally uprooting change.
Yes.
That was like a big change for you. What was that, and how did your old congregants take it?
Yeah.
You leaving?
Yeah, it was, it's still daunting. It is still overwhelming. It is still unbelievable. Bishop Long, with the grace of the Holy Ghost, built the largest black church in America. And so, like the words of the apostle, I'm not worthy to tie the straps on his sandal to be able to move forward. I have the distinct, gifted opportunity to sustain a legacy and to build upon it. I will never be Bishop Eddie Long. All I can commit to do is to be the best Jamal Bryant. And I'm just thankful for the change. I'm AME, African Methodist Episcopal. I am now pastoring a Baptist church, going back to change. And so this is completely different. My church in Baltimore, when I left, in large measure felt abandoned and left. And I felt fulfilled and confirmed. I had known for about 2 years that my season was up. That God was pushing me in another direction. I just didn't know what it was or where it was. But when I got to Atlanta, I received a peace that passes all understanding.
You said obviously it was quite nerve-wracking to make the move. Before you actually decide, okay, yes, I'm gonna go, was there a moment of like doubt or where like, maybe I shouldn't do this because this is such
Not
a big...
one.
Really?
Not one moment of doubt from that day to this. We say things in cliche that we really don't mean, that he'll open doors you're unable to see. This was a door I could not see. But when that door opened, I ran through it full speed ahead. So I really am just humbled by the mercy of God. An old preacher said many years ago, preachers are the last people to believe what they preach. Is that we believe it for other people, but are last and slow to believe it for ourselves. And so I have seen in my own life what the favor of God unapologetically looks like, and I embrace it with gratitude.
I know you do a lot of global missions, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, pre-COVID now,
Yes.
you know, you're traveling,
Yes.
now you're here in Ghana and so forth. A lot of times, you know, when you're traveling the world, you're meeting different people, you know,
Yes.
through ministering. What do you receive? Because I know a lot of times, you know, people take when
Yes.
we're, you know, go to church or we're streaming online, we're literally we're just taking. But what do you receive out of just global missions and just touching the world?
My mother said something to me many years ago that sticks with me to this day. Here's what she said. She said, it's not charity when it's family. And so a whole lot of people who do missions feel aloof, feel better than, feel like they are doing something at arm's length. But when I realize this is my family, this is my sister, this is my brother, these are my nieces and nephews, this is my reasonable portion of what it is that I ought to be giving. The song says, what must I render unto God for all these blessings? God made everything and everything belongs to him. I really was convicted about global missions because when I go through the airport in Atlanta, go through the airport in New York, go through the airport in Washington, when I see missions groups, invariably it's always white churches who have throngs of teenagers in the same T-shirt, who got T-shirts that say Kenya 2022, Ghana 2022, and I'm not seeing black churches operate in that same level. And so I am committed to making sure that we build the bridge back of understanding that this is our responsibility. Do you not know that Orthodox Jews fight to buy property in Israel?
Yeah.
For you to get a cemetery plot in Israel is almost $1 million because they want the privilege of being buried back home. And I want that same kind of deference, that same kind of sanctity for the soil that is drenched in the blood of our ancestors, to hold that kind of place in the heart of African Americans.
And I think that shift, you know, slowly is slowly, and I think, you know, things like the year of return, hopefully we're going to be getting there.
Yes, I believe it.
Now, obviously, I know you're here this trip in Ghana with Prophet Jamal Bryant. What has it been like so far? You know, being back in Ghana and obviously ministering at Prophet Bryant's church.
I have to tell you, I am in awe. He and I are ministering together every night. I'm preaching and then he is prophesying. By the second night, I don't even want to preach no more. I just want to hear him prophesy.
And when he prophesies, he goes.
The gift that is on him is unparalleled to any gift I have ever seen. And I am just awe and grateful that God has knitted our hearts together. An amazing gift and serving under the tutelage of Archbishop. It is clear where it is that he gets that level of dynamism and proficiency in the prophetic to be able to declare what saith the Lord. And so it has been rejuvenating, probably more for me than it has been for the people who've been present.
What is it like for you when you are in a ministry setting in Ghana or in Africa as opposed to the US? Because I know there's a difference. I've been to black churches in the US and well, you've seen how we do like charismatic church here. Well, what's the main difference?
The singular distinctive difference to me is African Americans focus on song and Africans focus on prayer. So we'll sing all night, where you all will pray all night. So the Archbishop is leading you through the 100 days of prayer, 50 days of prayer. I don't know of an African American church that has done that. And so it has really championed my prayer life to go to the next level. We may do a perfunctory prayer for maybe about 5 minutes at the beginning of the service, and then the choir is singing the majority of the service. But to bring us back to our knees, to know that prayer is in the Bible more than praise. And a lot of African American churches put a lot of focus on praise and very little focus on prayer. But I am really recalibrated to go back home and to amplify the prayer life of the body at New Birth.
Nice. This is Inspire. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to be right back with Dr. Jamal Bryant's final words for us today. Hello and welcome back to Inspire. I'm speaking with Dr. Jamal Bryant. He's in Ghana, been coming here. What you spoke about, in terms of the U.S. churches, like black churches, worship, song, praise, and prayer. It's something I never thought about, funny enough, because I also think that in my mind, I think we do a lot of praise and worship here. But you're right, when it comes to prayer, we go all the way this way.
Yes.
There's something that I actually wanted to talk about. Like, I know currently right now, when it comes to, the whole world, COVID, you said, has hit a lot of people. And one of the things I realized recently with the passing of actress Regina King's son, suicide, so many people depressed, black people. For the longest time, black people, we don't talk about depression.
Right.
But it seems like this thing is something I'm hearing more and more and more about. As somebody, as an African American, what do you say to just people in general when they're struggling? Because for a lot of people looking in, this person seems like they have a perfect life.
Yes.
We don't have the money they do. We don't have the influence. But all that doesn't matter if the enemy is telling you lies. What do you say to, black men especially? Because a lot of times the burden on black men, I feel like, is so much more, who are going through struggles and whether depression or thoughts of suicide. What do you say to them?
Here's what is amazing. In America, the people who commit the largest number of suicides are those who have wealth. The greatest number of depression is not for people who are in poverty. So we have built a false premise that material and tangible things will give us satisfaction. When you don't have a peace within yourself, what does it profit a man, a woman, a teenager, an entrepreneur, a college student, to gain the whole world and to lose themselves? Part of the responsibility of the church is mental health, is that we focus a lot on soul salvation, but not emotional balance. Karl Marx, philosopher, says that Christianity sometimes is the opiate of oppressed people, is that we use church to get a high, and then we get home and crash. So it comes out in different ways. is that people who are depressed are not necessarily cutting themselves and not necessarily
sometimes they're very happy
getting
to the
a rope.
outside
Yes,
world.
a lot of people who are depressed do so by eating. A lot of people who are unhappy try to find a fix through shopping. A whole lot of people who are unhappy find their escape through promiscuity. And so we've got to deal with not just the fruit of the matter, but what is the root of it. And a lot of times at church, we target what are the outliers, but not what is underneath of the cover. And I think that particularly in the United States, we're having to do a whole lot of due diligence of the emotional wholeness. You'll notice what Jesus said critically is not, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be whole? And a lot of people are settling for healing when whole is available. And I want every person who's on Inspire to know that this is the year you are whole. You're whole in your marriage. You're whole in your dreams. You're whole in your family life. You're whole in your walk with God. You're whole in spite of what happened to you in your childhood. You shall be whole. And notice this, after he says it, he says, get your stuff and walk away. Part of the evidence of you being made whole is what you can walk away from. Part of the toxic engineering that has happened to us from colonization is we think that there's a special prize for staying. Sometimes it is the grace in going. So you've got to know, well, when is it that my time is up? Milk is only healthy until it reaches its expiration date. And after the expiration date, it'll ruin everything in the house, everything in the refrigerator, because it's that toxic. And so in order for you to be whole, you got to make sure you don't stay too long.
In terms of, the church, do you think the church is doing enough? And if I'm just saying, to talk about things like mental health and mental wellness and sometimes very, very deep things that, I said suicide has just been something that prominently has been so big recently. But do you think the church does enough to highlight these issues?
Yeah, I think churches like this one are. My faith is ablaze because of what I've seen just coming on this campus, is that this church is a nation unto itself. The Archbishop should really be called governor because this is a landmass like I've never seen. In American churches, singularly, the largest building is just the sanctuary. But you all are doing so much on this campus to be holistic and well-rounded. Can we do more? Of course. But Action Chapel is really, this is the Olympics. You all got an event for everything. And so I'm just enlivened to know what prayer can do, what faith can do, what the grace of God can do.
In terms of, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan-Williams, what do you say about him? I know, his influence. What do you say about it?
I don't have enough time. You'll have to bring me on a part two. I met Archbishop Duncan-Williams. He and I were preaching together for Bishop T.D. Jakes many years ago. And we went to dinner afterwards, and Archbishop I'm trying to eat dinner, just starts praying for me at the table. And I'm crying like a little boy. I don't even know what happened. I don't even know how we even got to that moment. He laid hands on me, and the next thing I know, I'm coming back up off the floor. I had hit a moment of critical depression. This is years after that took place, and went through a divorce. I went through depression after my divorce. And Archbishop came to my church one Sunday in the middle of that and preached my church and myself in the complete restoration and healing and wholeness. If Archbishop calls me 3 a.m. and tells me to get on a canoe and paddle to Ghana, I'm going to do it because I trust the voice of God that is on his life. He is really an amazing gift. And I would just say to the people of Ghana, the people of Action Chapel, don't get so spoiled by the greatness that you become common with it, that you appreciate and value such a intergalactic gift that is pulled on in every direction. Ghana is the better and the richer just because our Archbishop is here and alive and healthy.
Papa.
Yeah.
Papa.
Yes.
I always have to do the voice, Papa.
Yes.
So just as we end, what is your message? And I would like it to be a message of hope.
Yes.
And feel free to speak, directly to the people watching, especially, this year, 2022, knowing where we've come from the last couple of years.
I want you to pay attention to the contradiction that you've been hearing in secular press, in data and research analysts. Here's what they have been using that I don't want you to embrace: the new normal. I want to say to you that this is the season where everything will be anything but normal. The miraculous, the supernatural, signs and wonders are not normalcy. I want you to get used to what I shared just the other night: expecting the unexpected. Be prepared for you to be invited into tables that otherwise you would not have been welcomed. Keep a suitcase available for a global response to what it is that you have been doing locally. Prepare yourself for a stage being built so that you can flourish in your assignment and in your call. I want you to be in a position that everything you didn't get, your children will receive. I want you to brace yourself for blessings that are going to bombard your life that will make you too embarrassed to testify, because the blessing will sound like bragging. I want you to get to a place of unconventional wealth that God will, in fact, unleash into your hand and sign to your name, something and at a decibel nobody in your family has ever experienced. God is in the business of throwing surprise parties. What do you mean? God this year is going to do what eyes have not seen and ears have not heard. It is business as unusual, because you'll never be normal again with the level of anointing that you carry. Prepare for the unexpected.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And always free to come back to Dominion TV. Always come back anytime.
I'm honored. I'm not coming back unless you're doing the interview. You did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you. Actually, I've definitely been moved, and thank you for your words.
God bless you.
Thank you. Well, this is another episode of Inspire. Been speaking with pastor, teacher, author, Dr. Jamal Bryant. I've been inspired. I hope you have too. Until next time, my name is Amaka Prese. I'll catch you soon.